philanthropist and helped many people, in particular sports and basketball in Western Australia. I knew him. I met him at a range of events, in particular basketball events. Obviously, I think the last few years of his life were pretty tough, but he was someone of note who made a big contribution to Western Australia over many years, and obviously arrived here with very little and created a great deal. So can I pass on my thoughts in regards to his family and friends. To 8 p.m. last night, Western Australia recorded 617 new cases, 610 are local cases, seven are travel-related cases from interstate. We did 11,150 PCR tests yesterday, and today's cases include 25 self-reported positive rapid antigen test results. We now have a total of 2,147 active cases in WA. But in good news, I can advise WA has now reached a third dose rate of over 60%, which is climbing rapidly for those aged 16 and above. Yesterday, we did 21,343 vaccinations, which is a very large number, so that's a great result. It means WA is getting closer by the day to the 70% third dose rate that we're aiming for by March 3. In regards to the outbreak at Bidyadanga, which is, for those of you not aware of it, it's just south, maybe 150, 180 k's south of Broome. Yesterday afternoon, the Kimberley Aboriginal Medical Service reported that a number of COVID cases had been confirmed in Bidyadanga. 17 cases have been confirmed by the Kimberley Aboriginal Medical Service so far, 2 prior to 8 p.m. last night, and 15 that will be included in tomorrow's numbers. We expect more will follow in coming days. Bidyadanga is a large community, perhaps the largest remote Aboriginal community in Western Australia. I think it's nearly 1,000 people, so we expect more will follow. The community have self-lockdown, with WA Police enforcing road closures in and out of the community. A rapid response team from the Kimberley Aboriginal Medical Service are going into Bidyadanga this morning to assist in managing the situation. The community has a second dose vaccination rate of around 70%, and I understand first dose over 90%, which is encouraging. The situation is evolving. People in the Kimberley region should get tested and monitor their symptoms. It's clear that cases are rising in the community. The mathematics are clear. We're not far away from recording over 1,000 new cases per day. This is to be expected. It's not a cause for panic, but it's a reminder to take Omicron seriously. Now, for the past 2 years, WA has recorded some of the best economic results in the nation and the world. Out of all the states, we've had the strongest jobs growth and the lowest unemployment rate, highest participation rate by a long, long way. Across the pandemic, we've had the strongest domestic growth rates of all the states. They're the facts. The reason is businesses have been able to trade largely free of uncertainty from COVID, which also meant we were free pretty much for 2 years from restrictions. Unfortunately now, with the Omicron outbreak, we can't eliminate. Western Australia is subject to some of the same uncertainty experienced on the East Coast for some time. So in other words, the East Coast has been going through huge uncertainty and a great deal of restrictions for years, but unfortunately that's now arrived here. Even with only mild public health measures, businesses may be subject to outbreaks, staff can be isolated, customers may choose to stay home, and supply chains can be disrupted. It's going to be a bumpy and uncertain time, especially for small businesses. But that's the nature of the pandemic. Thankfully, due to our strong financial management, some of the best financial results of any jurisdiction in the world, my government is in a position to support our WA businesses through these uncertain times, as we promised. So today, I'm proud to announce our Level 1 COVID-19 Business Assistance Package, an additional $67 million in business support for those affected by COVID-19. 8 programs to support businesses subject to Level 1 public health and social measures announced last week, to assist eligible small businesses that are adversely affected by capacity constraints and suffer a downturn in revenue with cash flow and financial relief. The new package includes $42 million tenant rent relief scheme, providing grants of $3,000 to eligible, subject to some criteria, small business tenants. $10.7 million landlord rent relief incentive supporting eligible landlords with $1,500 who voluntarily match the government's tenant rent relief payments. $5 million alfresco support program to reimburse small businesses in the hospitality sector with up to $5,000 for eligible costs associated with creating and expanding an alfresco area to meet the requirements of public health social measures. $3.5 million waiver of licensing fees, including liquor licensing fees for eligible businesses in 2022. Further millions to support government tenants, small business tenants in government leased by government with grants of up to $6,000. $1.8 million nightclub assistance program with payments of up to $50,000 for eligible nightclubs dealing with strict attendance caps. And the $1.3 million Performing Arts, Theatres and Cinemas Assistance Program, providing payments of up to $50,000 to provide cash flow assistance to a range of larger indoor entertainment venues that are particularly affected by capacity constraints. So if the Luna experiences a downturn in revenue as a result of the ongoing public health and social measures subject to the criteria, they'd be able to apply for assistance of up to $50,000 and other cinemas as well. In the assistance program and in assistance and fee relief. Across the economy, it's going to provide much needed support to the businesses that experience the uncertainty and downturns from COVID, helping with cash flow, helping with fee relief. This package takes the total financial support committed by government to businesses, especially small businesses, throughout the pandemic to $1.6 billion. And as you know, the total support provided by government, the state government, is now $10 billion across the community. More than $350 million of this has been committed since December to support our safe transition plan for business. We've seen what's happened over East from COVID. Even without restrictions, customers stayed home, staff had to isolate, East Coast hospitality and other venues suffered, and no level of freedom from restrictions helped. At the other end of the spectrum, South Australia had a 7 square metre rule, that is one person per 7 square metre rule, on certain venues. What we're trying to do is get the balance right, slow the spread and keep the community confident to go out and about. At the same time, we're proud to provide some support to local businesses during these difficult times. The road ahead is going to be bumpy for people and businesses right across WA. That's undeniable and unfortunately unavoidable. But what everyone should have confidence in is WA is as best prepared as possible, even in the face of the Omicron virus. Globally high vaccination rates, we have globally high vaccination rates, the right policies in place, necessary support for business, and if we all stick together and do the right thing, we'll be in the best possible position. Are there any questions?
Why isn't there revenue-based support for cafes and restaurants for the smaller operators?
Well, the assessment we did with Treasury was the best thing we could do was provide support in relation to rent. So we had a look at what goes on. So a lot of your small business tenants have suffered a loss of, will suffer a loss of revenue, and so therefore providing direct support to them in terms of their, just basically grants to them was the best way we could support them through this difficult period. The criteria are basically it's if you compare your cash flow for a 6-week period between the 1st of January and 30th of April, with the cash flow for another six-week period in that period last year, if you've suffered a decline in revenue of over 30%, well, you're eligible. So that means the relief is up to $3,000. It's $6,000 for government tenants, so we're setting the right example. If a landlord wants to match what the state government's doing, they'll get $1,500 from the state government. So in effect, small businesses can receive $6,000 if eligible over this period. So we tried to structure it right. We don't want to give it to businesses that might be doing better, and some businesses actually do over these periods, but we want to make sure it's directed to those businesses that most need it. So it's a targeted assistance scheme on the back of all the other assistance schemes we've done. to support businesses around WA.
Some businesses are saying they're quiet at the moment. It's not just restrictions hurting, but people are staying
Yeah.
home. Do you have a message to the public? I mean, some people are worried that they'll become a close contact by going out.
We're not saying that people need to work from home. Now, other states have done that continuously for many months, if not years. We're saying, please go to work, subject to individual businesses and agencies making sort of decisions based upon their own circumstances. We're saying to people, please go out, please ensure you support small businesses, please go to restaurants, retail, cafes and the like. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. But if those businesses do suffer a decline in revenue, the government is there to help, and that's what this package is about.
Does your decision to spend 7 days in quarantine contribute to that message?
No, I've explained this a number of times. This delivers on the commitment I made the other week, and so I didn't want anyone to be able to argue that I manipulated the times and dates of court hearings and the like to suit myself. So just trying to set the right example, make sure people understand that we're all in it together, and I'm prepared to do what other people had to do.
Is this package a bit of a sweetener for businesses before level 2 restrictions are triggered?
Well, I'm reluctant to put in place what's called level 2 restrictions, as I've said many times. But this is about the existing situation. So the existing public health social measures are actually relatively modest, but many people are deciding not to go out. They're making that decision of their own volition. So this is designed to help small businesses over this difficult period, which we expect will extend potentially to the end of April. If we need to extend it beyond that, we will. But it's just designed to help businesses with what is going on across the community, some of which is just based upon people deciding of their own volition not to go out. Now, we're asking people, still go out, still go and have dinner at restaurants, still go and buy coffee, still go and buy clothes or whatever it might be from retail, still go on holidays in WA. But if people are deciding not to and businesses are suffering, we're prepared to step up and help those businesses.
Can you give businesses some assurance that level 2 won't be brought in the next couple of weeks? Like, it's only just been level 1. How long have they got until level 2 comes in with 4 square metres, which will really gut a lot of businesses?
Yeah, look, other states have had pretty severe restrictions we haven't had. So, as you know, Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, they've had severe restrictions that Western Australia hasn't been through. We've had the freest and open society over the course of the last 2 years of anywhere in Australia, with the most successful economy. Now, we want to keep it that way. So level 2 restrictions is the last resort.
I just have a question about the Omicron modelling in relation to those restrictions. The graph that shows our peak and number of cases in hospital, is that based on level 1 restrictions, that projection, or is it with the assumption that eventually we'd be moving to level 2?
It's based on the assumption of level 2, but it's modelling. So, as I said yesterday, we'll monitor hospitalisation rates and vaccination rates, which are important considerations as well.
Qantas CEO Alan Joyce has essentially blamed you for losing the company $60 million by delaying the border reopening. What's your response to that?
Look, over the last 2 years, Qantas has suffered grievously. So it suffered because of the loss of international flight routes, the decline in interstate travel, and that's been between all the states. But one of the shining lights for Qantas, if not the biggest revenue earner over the last 2 years for Qantas, has been the intrastate FIFO within Western Australia. And that's because we kept COVID out. So we kept Qantas with some very profitable routes over the last 2 years because we kept COVID out and were able to ensure that intrastate FIFO continued to operate. So we were pleased to support Qantas in that way. We were pleased to make sure that we gave them that support over that difficult period when other countries around the world with mining industries basically shut down. So that was a strong contribution we made to Qantas. In terms of the border change, that was designed to save lives and save jobs within Western Australia, which is what it did.
I mean, do you know what the third dose rate is in Bidyadanga?
I think it's about 8.8%, so it's quite low. So, sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, just how concerning is that?
It is concerning. I'd encourage Aboriginal communities and Aboriginal people to get vaccinated. We've had multiple efforts all over the state to get Aboriginal people vaccinated. I just encourage people to take the opportunity.
You said you expect this difficult period to last until April 30. Is that an indication of that being anything to level 1 restrictions or the restrictions more generally will be lifted around the end of April?
No, it's not. But that's what this package is based around. So we had to make some sort of assumption. But if we have to extend the package, we will.
And if we go to level 2 restrictions, will there be more financial support forthcoming?
Yes, that's right. So if we had to go to level 2 restrictions, we would do more financial support, particularly for small business. But as I keep saying, I'm reluctant to go there, and our high vaccination rates, our compliance as a community, and our preparedness of our hospitals, hopefully, means we don't have to do that.
Is that extra support likely if we were to go to level 2 restrictions? Would the support measures that are going to be brought out as well, would they be announced on the same day? Because I know some businesses were a bit frustrated with the, I suppose, delay of finding out what support package there may be.
I don't know the answer to that, I'm sorry.
And how close are we to going to very high caseloads? Because obviously that brings changes to isolation advice.
Yeah.
School kids, and
Well,
businesses.
it's particularly relevant to what we term critical workers, so I don't think we're far away from that. So we're considering that currently.
Hospitalisation, obviously, we still looking for.
The latest advice I had was, I think it was 4 people in, maybe 5 people in hospital. It might have climbed 1 or 2. I'll get you some advice on that.
And are you buoyed by the fact that the numbers seem to, we hovered in the 200s for a while, we've gone up to the 600s now, that they haven't sort of really exploded? Are you buoyed by that?
Hospitals.
No, the
Yeah,
case numbers.
I think the case numbers, they tripled, so that's quite significant. But our hospitalisation rate is quite low, so that shows the benefit of vaccination. As you all know, we mandated vaccination. We have proof of vaccination for a range of venues designed to get the vaccination rates up. That helps hugely in keeping hospitalisation rates down.
Is testing high enough at the moment, or would you like to see more people going out and getting tested?
It's pretty, by our standards, it's pretty high. We're at, over 11,000 yesterday, PCR, but many thousands of rat tests I expect, so it's, by our standards, quite high.
When are you expecting Anthony Albanese to arrive for campaigning after the border opens for campaigning?
I don't know. I don't know when he'll be arriving. Sorry, you'll need to ask him. Thanks very much.
Thank you.